You're about to hear something many people notice, but almost no one talks about. Today, we're addressing a topic that confuses a lot of men. Why do women seem to prefer men who are not interested in them? Welcome to the channel. Let's have a real, honest conversation. As a therapist, I've spent years listening to people talk about dating, love, heartbreak, confusion, and all the strange ways human attraction works. And there's a pattern I've seen over and over, especially in my sessions with women. Many of them admit that the men who treat them too well, too soon, or show too much interest suddenly become less appealing. But the man who is calm, confident, and not begging for attention, that man becomes a mystery. He becomes a challenge. He becomes someone worth chasing. Now, this isn't about games. It isn't about being disrespectful or cold. That's not what I teach, and not what women want. But there is a powerful psychological effect that happens when a man is secure within himself. Women notice it instantly, when he is not desperate for her time, when he has a full life, when he isn't emotionally hungry. His presence feels different. In therapy rooms, women often say things like, "I don't know why I keep thinking about him," or "There's just something about the way he doesn't try too hard." They aren't attracted to the lack of interest itself. They're attracted to what it represents: confidence, emotional independence, self-worth, and control. Most men think the fastest way to win a woman is to give everything, show all the affection, and constantly prove their value. But from what I've seen, that actually builds pressure, not attraction. A man who wants a woman too badly starts to lose himself, and women can feel that instantly. So today, we're going to break down why this happens, what men misunderstand, and how emotional balance changes everything. 1. Women feel pulled toward emotional independence. Women don't fall for a man just because he talks to them or compliments them. In my work as a therapist, I learned that what creates real attraction is emotional independence. When a man is comfortable with himself, when he doesn't need constant reassurance or attention, something powerful happens. Women feel drawn toward him without even fully understanding why. I've had many sessions where women sit across from me trying to make sense of their own feelings. They say things like, "I don't know why I keep thinking about him. He doesn't even chase me." Or, "He's just calm and it makes me want to be around him." They aren't attracted to indifference. They're attracted to emotional stability. A man who isn't desperate gives a woman space to breathe, and that space creates curiosity. She starts wondering who he is, what he's thinking, and why he isn't reacting like everyone else. Men who don't need attention feel different. They move differently. They speak differently. When a woman senses that a man's worth isn't determined by her response, she sees confidence instead of insecurity. Most women don't want a man who is detached from life or cold toward people, but they are fascinated by a man who can enjoy his life with or without her. It shows maturity, and maturity is attractive. On the other hand, when a man gives too much too fast, when he is emotionally available, before she has earned that place, many women feel overwhelmed. They feel pressure instead of connection. In sessions, I've heard women admit that when a man is instantly attached, it makes them question his intentions. They start wondering, does he like me for me, or does he just want someone to fill a void? Emotional independence means a man has a life, goals, friendships, passions, and peace within himself. And when a woman notices that he won't fall apart if she doesn't respond right away, she respects him more. That respect becomes attraction. She feels drawn into his world rather than being forced into it. A man who is comfortable standing alone gives off a silent message. "I choose you, but I don't need you to survive." That balance, want but not need, is where attraction grows strongest. And from what I've seen over years of listening to both men and women, nothing is more compelling than that. 2. Confidence speaks louder than interest. Confidence has always been one of the strongest forces of attraction, and many men underestimate it. They think attraction is built by effort, more calls, more messages, more compliments. But confidence is not shown by how much you chase someone, it's shown by how you carry yourself, even when you don't get what you want. In therapy, I've had men sit in front of me completely defeated, asking why a woman pulled away after they showed so much interest. And I've had women in the same room telling me that something just didn't feel right. When we dig deeper, the problem usually isn't kindness or affection. The issue is that the man's confidence disappeared the moment he liked her. Confidence is not arrogance. It's not being loud or trying to prove something. It's a quiet, steady sense of self. When a man likes a woman but still respects his own boundaries, she feels safe around him. When he can communicate without fear of rejection, she respects him more. And when he doesn't fall apart emotionally just because she takes time to respond, she sees maturity, not neediness. Some women have told me he was a good guy, but I felt like he needed me to validate him. Whether the man realized it or not, his behavior sent a silent message. I need you to like me so I can feel good about myself. Women pick up on that quickly. Confidence tells a different story. It says, I'm interested, but I'm not depending on you to feel valuable. That energy pulls women in because they know the relationship is a choice, not an emotional survival strategy. Many men don't realize this, but interest without confidence turns into pressure. Confidence without interest turns into coldness. The real power is the balance between them. When you show interest in a calm, grounded way, you give a woman room to feel curious instead of uncomfortable. And here's something important. Confidence is not for her. It's for you. It affects how you work, how you speak, how you make decisions. When a man has a strong identity, a purpose, and a sense of direction, women notice. They don't have to be told. They can feel it. So if you want stronger connections with women, don't focus on proving yourself. Focus on knowing yourself. A confident man doesn't rush, doesn't beg, doesn't panic, and doesn't lose himself trying to impress someone. He leads with who he is, not what he can offer. Interest gets attention for a moment. Confidence is what keeps it. 3. Mystery sparks curiosity and attraction. Mystery is not a trick, a game, or a strategy. It's a natural result of having a full life and not placing all of your attention on one person. When a man isn't overly available, when he has his own routine, passions, and priorities, something interesting happens. A woman starts wondering about him. She becomes curious, and curiosity is a powerful form of attraction. One thing I've noticed in therapy sessions is how often women talk about the men they can't quite figure out. They'll say, he's so calm, or I never know exactly what he's thinking, but I like it. They don't mean he's confusing or emotionally closed. They mean he isn't predictable. He doesn't rush, he doesn't chase, he doesn't over-explain himself. His value isn't handed over, it's discovered slowly. Most men think that being mysterious means hiding things or acting uninterested, but that's not what attracts women. Mystery comes from self-control. Women are intrigued by men who don't say everything they feel in the first 5 minutes, men who don't reveal their entire life story as soon as they meet someone. It's attractive when a man shares information at a natural pace, letting the connection grow over time. In one session, a woman described it perfectly. She said, he doesn't force himself into my life. He just shows up in a way that makes me want to know him. That is mystery, leaving space for curiosity. When a man takes his time, when he doesn't give every emotion away instantly, women pay closer attention. They start thinking about him more, wondering what he's doing and why he feels so comfortable without constant interaction. On the other hand, a man who overshares too early sends a different message, that he is hungry for emotional closeness. When someone feels like the connection means too much too soon, women don't feel excited, they feel cautious. They lose the desire to learn more because everything is already on the table. Mystery is also a sign of emotional confidence. It shows that a man trusts the process. He doesn't need to rush or force anything. He lets the woman discover him gradually, and that journey is what builds attraction. It gives her something to look forward to. Women aren't falling for a lack of interest, they're falling for balance. A man who shows interest but still holds his own identity becomes irresistible. He becomes someone worth exploring, someone worth understanding, someone who stands out. The less a man needs to be seen, the more he is noticed. That is the quiet power of mystery. 4. Chasing validation pushes women away. In relationships, I often hear painful stories from both sides. One that stays with me involved a man who tried everything to prove his love. He wasn't cruel, he wasn't careless, he was actually a good person with a big heart. But every day he kept asking his partner the same questions. Do you still love me? Are you sure you're not losing interest? Did I do something wrong? He didn't realize it, but he was chasing validation, not connection. And the more he asked for reassurance, the more she pulled away. Women don't lose interest in a good man. They lose interest when a good man loses belief in himself. In therapy, women often describe this situation the same way. I felt like I was carrying his emotions. When a man constantly needs attention or approval, it becomes emotional weight. It stops feeling like love and starts feeling like responsibility. Instead of excitement, there is pressure. Instead of attraction, there is fatigue. Many men chase validation without realizing it. They text back instantly. They panic when she pulls back a little. They change their behavior just to keep her happy. They forget their own needs, values, routines, and identity. At first, a woman might appreciate the sweetness, but eventually she starts to feel something shift. She starts feeling like the relationship is no longer equal. And when a man loses his independence, she loses respect. Not because she's cold, not because she's selfish, but because attraction cannot survive when one person is emotionally dependent. I've heard women say things like, I cared about him, but he wanted me to be his whole world. I couldn't breathe. That is what happens when a man chases validation. The relationship becomes about fear, not love. Fear of losing her. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being enough. But here's the truth. A woman feels more secure with a man who is secure within himself. When he can handle silence without panicking, when he can handle distance without falling apart, she sees strength. When he respects her space and keeps his life full, balanced, and meaningful, she admires him. Validation doesn't come from begging for love. It comes from being a man who respects himself, a man who values his time, his goals, his peace, a man who believes that he is worthy of love without needing constant proof. When a man stops chasing validation, something powerful happens. Conversations feel lighter, the relationship feels equal, and the woman starts giving affection out of desire, not obligation. Men don't lose women because they care too much. They lose women when caring becomes insecurity. The moment a man remembers his worth, the entire relationship changes. 5. Men who prioritize their lives. Stand out. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen men make in relationships is abandoning their own lives the moment they start liking a woman. They cancel plans, stop focusing on their goals, lose touch with friends, and their entire schedule begins to revolve around her. At first it feels romantic, but over time it becomes a problem. Not because she doesn't appreciate the effort, but because she can feel when a man is losing himself. In therapy sessions, I've heard women explain it in a gentle but honest way. He stopped being the person I fell for. She liked him because he had direction, energy, discipline, and identity. But when all of that disappears, she doesn't feel chosen. She feels responsible for his happiness, and that responsibility becomes pressure. The wrong approach is when a man starts saying things like, I don't care about anything except you. I'll give up whatever you want. Just tell me what to do, I don't want to lose you. These words don't sound loving to women, they sound like surrender. They make her feel like she has to lead both lives, not just her own. And no matter how caring a woman may be, she does not want to carry a man. She wants to walk beside him. The right approach is very different. When a man continues growing, learning, building, and improving, he sends a silent message. You are part of my life, not the replacement for it. That's what makes a woman respect him. A healthy, confident man says things like, I care about you, but I also have goals I'm working on. I'd love to see you tonight, but I already have plans. Let's pick another day. Being with you makes my life better, but I'm still responsible for my own happiness. These aren't cold words. They're balanced words. They show that he values her, but he also values himself. Women don't fall for a man who gives up everything for them. They fall for a man who brings something meaningful into their world, a man with passions, a man with ambition, a man who is building something bigger than the relationship. When a man prioritizes his life, she feels inspired, not burdened. She feels attracted, not responsible. She respects him because he respects himself. And something interesting happens when a woman sees a man living with purpose. She wants to be part of that journey. She wants to support him, not replace his goals. You don't win a woman by sacrificing your identity. You win her by being a man she can admire, not a man who hides his potential in the name of love. A man who has a life stands out. A man who abandons his life fades into the background. 6. Respect grows when attention isn't forced. One of the most surprising things I've learned through years of listening to couples is this. Women respect a man more when his attention is genuine, not forced, not desperate, and not demanded in return. When a man forces his presence into a woman's life, constant messages, constant compliments, constant pressure for emotional responses, she doesn't feel loved. She feels overwhelmed. I once sat with a woman who tried her best to explain why she pulled away from a man who did everything right. She said, "He gave me attention, but it didn't feel natural. It felt like he needed me to react a certain way every time. She didn't feel seen, she felt managed. And the more attention he gave, the less she respected it, because it didn't come from confidence. It came from fear. Forced attention usually looks like asking for answers she isn't ready to give. Repeating, 'Are you upset with me?' every time she's quiet, trying to impress her instead of talking to her, showing affection only to get something in return, and whether a woman says it out loud or not, she can feel the difference. Real attention is quiet, it's steady, it's respectful, it shows interest without suffocating her. It allows her to respond in her own time, in her own way, without pressure. Men don't realize how attractive that is. When a man is calm, patient, and emotionally grounded, it makes a woman feel safe. She doesn't feel judged for needing space. She doesn't feel rushed into decisions. She doesn't feel like every conversation is a test. She can just breathe. And when a woman can breathe around a man, she wants to stay. Women respect a man who doesn't panic when things slow down. They respect a man who can handle silence or distance or uncertainty without falling apart. It tells her he's emotionally strong. It tells her he cares, but he doesn't need to control the situation. A man who doesn't force attention sends a powerful message. I'm here because I choose to be, not because I'm afraid of losing you. That confidence changes the entire dynamic. It allows her to come toward him instead of being pushed. It makes her appreciate his presence because it isn't demanded, it's offered. And something interesting happens when a woman respects a man's independence. She starts giving more attention without being asked. She initiates conversations. She checks in. She shows care on her own, not out of pressure, but out of desire. Respect isn't earned through intensity. It's earned through stability. When a man is secure in himself, his attention becomes valuable. And when his attention is valuable, a woman treats it with appreciation instead of avoidance. 7. A calm, patient man is hard to resist. There is something powerful about a man who stays calm when other men would panic. A man who doesn't rush, doesn't beg for answers, doesn't explode when things don't go his way. That man feels different, and women notice it faster than most men realize. In therapy, I've seen couples on the edge of falling apart. The relationship is shaky, emotions are high, and both people are scared. But when a man remains patient, when he listens instead of reacting, when he takes a breath instead of raising his voice, the entire tone of the relationship changes. Something softens, something opens. Women feel safe, and safety is one of the deepest roots of attraction. A calm man doesn't ignore problems. He doesn't pretend he doesn't care. He simply refuses to be controlled by fear or emotion. When a woman sees that, she sees strength. Many men don't understand how rare that is. Some men rush into anger, panic, jealousy, or insecurity at the first sign of distance. They read too deeply into small changes, overreact to silence, or demand instant reassurance. That pressure pushes women away, not because they don't care, but because it makes them feel responsible for managing his emotions. A patient man creates the opposite effect. When things feel uncertain, he doesn't collapse. He lets the moment breathe. He allows emotions to settle instead of forcing a fast solution. And women appreciate that more than words can express. I've heard women say things like, "He didn't try to control me. He let me talk without interrupting. He didn't act like everything was an emergency." Those simple behaviors create attraction because they create trust. A woman opens up more to a man who stays steady. She feels respected, not pressured. She feels heard, not managed. She feels like she can be herself without walking on emotional glass. Patience is not weakness, it's discipline. It shows emotional maturity. It shows self-control. A calm man can communicate clearly, think logically, and respond gently even when he's upset. That's the type of man a woman can build with. Here's the part many men don't expect. Patience makes a woman want to give more. When she doesn't feel rushed, she becomes affectionate on her own. When she isn't judged for needing time, she comes closer. When a man stays steady, she lets her guard down. The calm man becomes the man she respects, the man she feels safe with, the man she thinks about when she's alone, the man she chooses, not because she was chaste, but because he was steady. A patient man doesn't need to force attraction. He earns it without raising his voice, without demanding attention, and without losing his dignity. That is why calm men are so unforgettable. Attraction isn't built on chasing, proving, or begging for attention. Women are drawn to men who are confident, emotionally stable, mysterious in a natural way, and comfortable standing on their own. When a man has his own life, his own purpose, and his own identity, he becomes someone worth respecting and someone worth loving. You don't win a woman by losing yourself. You win her by being a man who brings peace, strength, and balance into her life. So instead of trying to be perfect, be steady. Instead of forcing interest, live with confidence. That's the kind of man women remember.